And let's bring in a friend of ours and a friend of this show from CBSSports.com. He writes about the NBA. His name is Matt Moore. Hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Matt, we just debated the MVP vote. Did you have, we saw CBS Sports had a vote. Was it you, and whether it was you or not, who would you have voted MVP?
It was not. It was my colleague Ken Berger, who was in Cleveland last night. If I had a vote, I would have gone with LeBron James. I'm with you guys on that. I just think that he did so much in so many areas of the game. His raw production was just ridiculous. And, I mean, he willed that team. There are times when I believe in metrics, and there's times in which you can tell a guy's just willpower puts a force on a series. In those first 3 games, LeBron's willpower carried that team. I mean, J.R. Smith was probably his 3rd best player on that squad. And they managed to squeak out 2 games and almost won a 3rd from the Warriors. So I would have given it to LeBron.
How about MVP of the Warriors, Curry or Iguodala?
I tend to go with Iguodala just because Curry really, the numbers are okay for him. But early on in the series, Curry was really passive. He just wasn't putting his mark on the games. And while Iguodala's defense is a little bit overstated, LeBron did shoot 38% with him on the floor. And Iguodala's offense was actually really good. That jump shot, which has never been reliable for him, came through in this series. He shot 52% from the field in this series, and he kept making big buckets in transition to kickstart the offense and get the Warriors back into their flow of the game. It's less a matter of really Iguodala being dominant or being really great, and more that just Curry was kind of not his normal self. And maybe I'm judging him on his own curve there.
I know a lot of people, a lot of my brethren in the media want to talk about LeBron's legacy, but I'm going to skip that for right now. I want to know this. In the Golden State Warriors, have we seen an ascendant great team, or did we see a one-hit wonder or something in between?
I'm a little bit more sold on than you are. I think that when you look at the fact that they had the best point differential, which historically is a really good indicator of how good the team is, they had the best one of those since Jordan's Bulls. They were just beating teams that badly the entire year. Their longest winning streak the entire season was 2. They went down to Memphis and then responded with the Fury. They went down to the Cavs and then responded with the Fury. I think the fact that they struggled against these Cavs takes a little shine off of them. But they were so great defensively. This was the fastest team in the league, and they had the best defense. And then they also were just so versatile in being able to hit you with so many ways. You're going to look back and say, man, that Draymond Green, he made so many huge plays. And Klay Thompson, remember when he scored 37 points in a quarter that season? And, the work that obviously Curry just being ridiculous and scoring MVP. They've got a lot of on the resume to suggest that they're a great team. I think we're going to have to wait and see kind of how it unfolds maybe in the future to see whether this is a one-hit wonder or not, just because of the fact that the West is crazy tough, and they had a lot of breaks this year.
Matt, give me your visceral reaction to this. A lot of people are pointing out that the Warriors won 83 games total, regular season and postseason, and it's the 3rd most wins ever in an NBA season. So now they're saying, well, that must mean the Golden State Warriors are one of the top 5 or one of the top 10 teams of all time. Are they?
I've been wrestling with this all time. No, let's not go with those Lakers teams of the 80s. Let's not go with those Celtics teams of the 80s. Let's not go with Russell's Celtics. And let's not even approach Jordan's Bulls. The Jordan's Bulls, whole other level. But I think it gets interesting when you start talking about putting them in comparison with the early 2000 Lakers, who were dominant, but didn't face anybody. I mean, the league was really shook up after Jordan left. And so it was in a really bad place. And you compare them with maybe the early Spurs with Duncan versus maybe the late era Spurs with Duncan. But then you ask yourself, would the Warriors, with the way that they played in the playoffs, really have beaten maybe this year's or last year's Spurs? And that gets tough. So to me, I don't put them in the all-time greats. I think they're a great team. I don't think they're an all-time great team at all.
This portion of the big stuff brought to you by Grand Prix Motorsports, your source for the original motorcycle, Indian motorcycles.
Let's talk trends. I think it's indisputable that the rise and the importance of the three-point shot is the stuff. It's the thing. But the Warriors also give rise to a lot of talk about positionless basketball. Has everybody started to play positionless basketball? Can a lot of teams do that? Or do the Warriors have a unique group of individuals that allow the Warriors to do that effectively, where maybe the Pistons or the Nuggets or the Magic down the road can't do that?
I think it gets to a lot of, they have a special collection of talent. Like Draymond Green's ability to play center inside is, I mean, it's crazy. He's so short, and yet he's able to bust everybody up because he's strong and he just fights down there. His just effort to battle is so constant. So you have to have that kind of approach, and you have to have everybody locked in. That said, we were talking about positionless basketball. All you're really talking about is versatility, which means more guys are able to do more. So I think there's a lot of teams that are moving towards that. Like the Rockets aren't going to all of a sudden go centerless. They have Dwight Howard, but they have run out lineups with a lot of guards in order to surround Howard with like 4 shooters. The Cavs ran small ball lineups as well during the season. They went more to big lineups because they were having success with that in the playoffs. But during the regular season, they went small a lot of the time. I think the Nuggets, they had a really interesting, when they won 57 games, a lot of that was positionless stuff. And they had more success at the end of the year when they got out of the really rigid position systems that Brian Shaw had put in and started going more to like Gallo at the 4 and things like that. So I think there's a move towards versatility. I mostly think that a large part of it is just the 2 and the 3 and the 4 are all getting intermixed. You need tall guys that are strong and athletic that can shoot the ball. You just need those guys at multiple positions in order to survive in this league at this point.
Matt, if LeBron James is complemented by Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, a healthy Irving and Love in the finals, is the outcome different?
I read a lot about this. It's very, very complicated because if Love's on the floor, you don't have to play. It seems simple, right? Like add 2 really great players and they're better. But if Love's on the floor, they're defensively limited. They're vulnerable in huge ways. Like he's a liability defensively, and their entire success in the playoffs was dependent upon them turning into a defensive squad. Irving being available, part of the counter argument is, well, even if Irving had played, his defense would have suffered versus Curry. But Irving played tremendous defense on Curry in game 1. So it gets to be a really complicated issue. I tend to think that would have worked out pretty similar, where it may have been closer in those final 2 games, but I think the Warriors still would have had the advantage because in the end, they still had a better defense and had a better offense.
This portion of the big stuff brought to you by Grand Prix Motorsports. Tell you more about them in just a sec.
All right, I liked you talking about Kevin Love and his defensive liabilities. The Cavs are looking at big expenses in this offseason. What's your feeling on Kevin Love's future with the Cavs from both Love's perspective and how the Cavs should look at it?
There's what the Cavs say, which is he's definitely coming back. And there's what Love says, I'm definitely coming back. And then there's what everyone in the league says, which is he's not coming back. It's not going to happen. It's really weird to watch it play out. I think that watching them make this run may have encouraged him to be a part of it. Being a part of a finals run tends to get you more invested in the chemistry. But I think for him, it's tough because they misused him the entire year. For as many liabilities as he does have on defense, he's a phenomenal offensive player, and Black got the least out of him anyone ever has. And that guy's played for Kurt Rambis. I mean, he's played for some bad coaches. So, he's lost a lot of star power during these finals and during the season in terms of his, overall worth as a league. I think if he wants to be a star, he's going to leave. If he wants to make the most of his career and make the most money, he leaves. If he wants to be a part of a winning environment and ensure that he gets a ring, I think he signs back on. The question, I think, also for the Cavs is complicated because it's going to be one where we were really good with Tristan Thompson, and we're going to have to pay him a max. Are we really going to pay Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love a max when neither of them can really play the 5?
Matt, if Kevin Love leaves, as you think he will, A, where does he go? And B, do the Cavs then go out into free agency and bring another really good player in?
I think the Celtics are still on the board for Love. I think the Lakers are still on the board for Love. And I think Portland's still on the board for Love. I think those teams are going to take a really hard look at him and see if LaMarcus Aldridge leaves Portland, with Kevin Love's kind of attitude and the way that he likes to live, Portland's a really good fit for them, and they would have the money to be able to make an offer for him. He went to high school out there. So there's a lot of things I think that work out in that direction. I think the Celtics, even despite the Kelly Olynyk disaster, I think they've still put together a really strong offer in terms of a winning tradition, plus a good team around him, plus a coach that probably he wants to play for in Brad Stevens. He's going to have a lot of options if he decides to enter free agency.
I know you were there yesterday when Michael Malone was introduced. Your impressions of Michael Malone, either from yesterday or from what you saw for him during his work as head coach at Sacramento?
I mean, he's got this awesome reputation. LeBron's vouched for him. DeMarcus Cousins has vouched for him. Every player that's coached for him just speaks incredibly highly of him. General managers, executives, coaches, everyone loves Mike Malone. he said a lot of the things that I would want to hear. Obviously, being a little bit more metrics than you, Mark, in terms of talking about efficiency and pace, and talking about how you can run and defend at the same time, which I think is really key in the modern NBA. Talk about how the 3-point shot is vital. But everyone sounds good in a press conference. Everyone sounds good in a press conference, and I have no way to know how he's going to do with this team when I don't know what the roster is going to look like in a week, let alone 5 months. So until we get a better look of who he's got and how they're going to play him, there are things that seem like they might fit. Like you look at like Gary Harris might really excel. Yusuf Nurkic might really excel. Then you look at Gallinari, who had a lot of success at 4 last year. Well, Rudy Gay played small ball 4 under Michael Malone, but he played a different kind of bruising small ball 4, and that doesn't really fit with Gallo. So there are some things that don't really fit, and we'll have to see how the roster shakes out to know, I think, if he's going to be a great fit for them or not. And beyond all that, he's got to win games. He didn't win games in Sacramento. It was a rough situation with a bad talent roster, but he didn't win games. And I think at some point that does have to factor into how we look at the hire.
You said we'll have to see how the roster shakes out. How do you give me a couple, 3 thoughts about how you think this roster will shake out? Who will be gone? And do you believe, as Tim Connelly believes, that the Nuggets can get a free agent or 2 to come here?
I think that Michael Malone helps actually with that because he's so well liked in the league. And I think that they've got a talented roster. I think if you can convince them that the culture has changed, you'll be in a lot better shape because those guys pay a lot of attention to what the organization, what the locker room's like. I would be surprised if Ty Lawson is here when the season starts. I would be not surprised if Kevin Fareed is gone by the time the season starts. I'd be a little surprised if Gallo is gone just because he's got so much value and he played so well last year. I expect a lot of changes, but as far as, this is the first time that Tim Connelly is really remaking a roster, and we don't know what the value of Lawson's going to be on the open market considering how much damage he's done to his reputation. So we'll have to see. The draft of that night, I think, is going to be a big thing. I'm expecting a big trade on draft night from the Nuggets, but then I've been expecting a big trade from them for, 16 months. So we'll see if they actually come through and actually make a move this time.
Matt, what are you expecting as far as the Nuggets drafting? If they keep the number 7 pick, what 2 or 3 guys do you think could very well be there? And who would you prefer for the Nuggets at that spot?
Justice Winslow, I think there's a chance that he slips. He could go 4, but he could fall all the way down. If Kristaps Porzingis, that's a name. If that guy goes 4 or 5, there's a chance that Winslow slips. I think he'd be phenomenal. I've been really getting on the idea of him being a shooting guard at 6'6", being able to use his athleticism. His shot isn't nearly as broken as everyone is kind of disgusted as. He looked bad at the end of the workout that the Nuggets folks saw, but that's because he was just getting through a 2-hour workout in altitude, which I don't know why they let us see those things when they're at the end of the workouts. They're dead tired, and they always look terrible. Mario Hezonja, if he's there and Winslow's off the board, I think Hezonja is a natural pick for them. They obviously love the European scouting. Everyone's really high on Hezonja. He's got a really tough attitude that they like. I think he's definitely a good option to go there. I think that if Willie Cauley-Stein is available, you might look at drafting him, depending on what you feel about Yusuf Nurkic, because Stein, I think, is a little bit more in terms of, we talked about how the league's evolving. Well, if you're going to go faster, Yusuf Nurkic is going to be a problem, I think, in that area. He's not exactly going to be able to lumber, I think, as he gets older. I think Stein is a little bit more mobile, and he's really versatile. I like Willie Cauley-Stein a lot.
Matt, we really appreciate your time. I know it's been a long season for you and a lot of travel, and we hope to have you in maybe a little bit after the draft, if that's okay with you. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, you guys can follow me at MattMooreCBS on Twitter, and just check out cbssports.com/NBA. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, Matt. We'll see you soon over at Pepsi Center. That's Matt Moore of CBSSports.com, and that portion of the big stuff was brought to you by Grand Prix Motorsports, your source for the original motorcycle. That's Indian motorcycles. Check out the newest line of Indian cycles at Grand Prix Motorsports. They're located on County Line and Santa Fe. And here's Scott, who got himself one of those Indian motorcycles, and he's enjoying the heck out of it. Indian motorcycles at Grand Prix Motorsports.